You know me. This is The Great Expanse by John Bat 426. I made it all one name, The Great Expanse by John Bat 426, so it'll be unique for you to easily find it on social media, specifically YouTube. So, cheap plug aside, or a farming aside, this is the recap with no cap, Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 6, Requiem. Now, in the previous episode, Vanessa Fisk finally died conclusively. Why don't I like Vanessa Fisk? I'll explain it to you since you asked. She's nothing like the comic book iteration. Now, does everything in live action or animation have to be shot for shot or panel for panel with the way it is done in a comic book? No, it does not. But the comic book iteration, we even see a version of this in Into the Spider-Verse. We see a Vanessa Fisk who is clean. She is the legitimate wife of the illegitimate Wilson Fisk. He is the sole proprietor, you could say, of organized crime in New York City. He's the biggest bad as far as organized crime goes. And he has superhuman strength. You know what I mean? Like he's not Hulk level or Colossus level, but he is superhumanly strong. So the only thing that would get him out of a life of crime, his only saving grace, his only chance of redemption is Vanessa Fisk in the comics. And we saw this, as I alluded to earlier, in Into the Spider-Verse. She sees him do something horrific, so Vanessa takes her son Richard, who in the comic books is Richard Fisk, who becomes the Rose, another member of organized crime, and she says, "We're leaving." And they die in a car crash in Into the Spider-Verse. And that's the whole reason why Wilson Fisk recruited Dr. Octavius? I forgot her name. The female Dr. Octopus to create the collider in the first place so he can get his wife and son back. In the comics, as I alluded to earlier on this channel some years ago, Wilson Fisk had Spider-Man in his grasp. He was going to kill Spider-Man. Vanessa Fisk walked in and says to Wilson Fisk, "You kill him, I'm out and you will never see me again." Wilson Fisk, with his great love for Vanessa, he says, okay, he abandons life of crime. He does not kill Spider-Man. He leaves with Vanessa. But, thanks to the MCU, thanks to Disney Plus, Vanessa Fisk is this notorious queen pin who took over his criminal enterprise in his absence after he was injured by Kate Bishop and then mortally wounded by Echo. So now she's a devious character that they're almost trying to make on par with the Kingpin. That's the way that this show has been shaping things up. Vanessa is almost as devious as Wilson Fisk. Baloney! So now the Kingpin has no sort of saving grace. There is no chance of redemption for the Kingpin because his wife is just as crooked as he is. Horrible! So now we saw earlier, I think in season 1 of Daredevil Born Again, she cheated on the Kingpin and told him who she cheated on him with. They made the Kingpin, or Wilson Fisk, Mayor Fisk, out to be a sucker, a sap, a cuckold. Short for cuck. I mean, cuck is short for cuckold. I'm looking at it like she cheated on you with this hippie dude. And of course, the Kingpin kidnapped him and killed him later on. But I was like, dude, if you, the Kingpin, don't kill this woman with your bare hands, you ain't the Kingpin. You're just this Fisk guy. And Vanessa Fisk let off a shot in the previous episode that nearly mortally wounded Bullseye. Of all the gunmen at Mayor Fisk's disposal, his wife got the shot off. Vanessa, come on. This is weak. She was weak. Get her out of here. Pack her up. Sayonara. Dos vidania. Hasta luego. Get her out of here. She sucked. So she's finally dead. Took her all last episode to die. So now this episode opens with her dead. And I'm like, pull a sheet over her. Get her out of here. So the doctor comes in and says, "Mr. Fisk, I'm so sorry." Then he starts quoting some Hindu or Buddhist proverb, I don't know. Puts his hand on Wilson Fisk's shoulder, and I'm like, you better kill this doctor. I'm like, he put his hand on you. He offered a hug. I'm like, who is this? And then when Wilson Fisk went in for the hug, I said, you better crush him to death. And Wilson Fisk does exactly that. Kills the doctor, drops him. I'm like, okay, there's a semblance of the Kingpin. And then, of course, he has Buck Cashman come in and clean the doctor up and make everything look spick and span. So then we see the funeral of Vanessa Fisk. We see Buck Cashman in the audience. We see Mayor Gandolfini, Deputy Mayor Gandolfini. His name is Daniel Blake, I believe. Or Daniel something, who cares? Another useless character. We see Dr. Glenn, the former girlfriend, not boyfriend, the former girlfriend of Matt Murdock. So then we see Dr. Glenn inside of Vanessa Fisk's bedroom by herself. She steals jewelry from a dead woman's jewelry box. And then she has this encounter with Buck Cashman. I guess they're trying to pair them together as a love interest or whatever. Buck Glenn, I guess that'll be their couple name, whatever. That was whack, I know. So then Buck Cashman is like, choke me the way he was choking you. And it's nonsense. I'm like, okay, they're trying to make Dr. Glenn the female muse. So she starts choking him and he's all, and it was a waste. It was a waste. Now the episode opened with, they weren't ABTF guys, but they were like CIA guys. You could tell by them being plain clothes and having like weapons grade weapons. Excuse me, military grade weapons, not weapons grade weapons, but military grade weapons. They descend on this lonely house in the middle of the woods. So I immediately figured that's probably Matthew Lillard's men or the Contessa's men, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So we see this little girl inside. She's mixed, obviously. A detonator is thrown through the window. She picks it up. She's like acting like it's like a toy while it's like beeping the countdown. And we just see the guys that raided the house like falling off the roof, crashing through doors and windows, whatever else. And I didn't know who it was at first. But then we see Jessica Jones come in and say it's not a toy. She breaks a detonator. So we got Jessica Jones. So from the trailer, we knew that Jessica Jones was going to be in the season. So she goes to New York City. She meets up with Matt Murdock, gives this awful spiel about how her powers are on the fritz. I'm like, why are you nerfing Jessica Jones? Why? I am so sick and tired of my superheroes and superheroines not having superpowers. It's just like Superman in 2025, James Gunn Superman. He was at 83%. Why can't Superman be at 100%? Why can't Jessica Jones be at 100%? She said, my powers just go in and out now. I was just like, trash. So she and Daredevil, they raid this warehouse where a lot of the weapons that Matthew Lillard was supposed to be receiving and distributing to his like contacts overseas. The Kingpin basically, because Matthew Lillard and his men went to one of the warehouses where the weapons were supposed to be, but they weren't there. So the Kingpin obviously welched on the deal and he sent them to a different warehouse. So Daredevil and Jessica Jones break in. She punches Powell, Jessica Jones, straight in his face. And Powell's like, all right. And she's, ah. So I'm like, okay. So what the MCU is telling me that without superpowers, if Jessica Jones punches a normal man that doesn't have any superpowers in his face, it won't hurt. She punched him straight in his face. I was like, cut. Then I was like, immediately, I was like, wait, does Powell have superpowers? And we just didn't know? No. What they're telling you is that this woman without superpowers can't hurt a fly if she punches it. I mean, his face like barely recoiled. I was like, this is awful. This is awful. Her powers just go in and out. Trash. So then Daredevil and Jessica, they blow the warehouse up. I don't remember how or care how. Then we see that I'm trying to remember, even though my brain is trying to help me not remember because I don't like the show anymore. But there is oh yeah. Matt Murdock leaves Karen alone with Bullseye, where they're living. A mortally wounded Bullseye is brought to where they're hiding from the ABTF and the rest of the city and all law enforcement. And Bullseye is the man that murdered Foggy Nelson in the first episode of season 1 of Daredevil Born Again. Why would you bring him to where you live when both of you are traumatized at this man, this cold-blooded murderer who killed your best friend? Why would you do that? I would have dropped him off at the police station. Like, yeah, go die in the process. Dumb stuff. So then Matt Murdock starts to spiel to Karen about we have to be separate from them. He's not even bothering to act like he's blind anymore. He's just looking straight. Charlie Cox is looking straight at Deborah Ann Woll like, hey, we can't do this anymore. Instead of like going, Karen, we can't do this. No, just, who cares about he's blind? That was a nitpick. I'm just messing. All right. So he says we have to be separate from them. I said, okay, but Daredevil, you can't be Superman. You can't be Batman. You can't be Spider-Man. You have to be Daredevil. Let these guys die. You can't save everybody in the city. He saves Wilson Fisk from Bullseye killing him last season. Now he saves Bullseye from the Kingpin killing him. You can't save the innocent and the guilty, Daredevil. This show's writing is hot garbage. Hot garbage. So when Matt Murdock leaves with, to go rendezvous with Jessica Jones, Karen pulls out a gun. And Bullseye just happens to wake up at the same time. Like, yeah, I killed Foggy and all this other stuff. So he leans forward so she can shoot him in his head. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, there's no way on earth she's going to let this shot off because it's poorly written that way. So she hesitates. And then we see a baton coming out of nowhere. And then the gun goes off. I'm like, predictable. So predictable. So she was going to kill Bullseye, and Daredevil just happened to come back home in time to stop her. And then she says the same thing to him. She says, why are you saving the wrong people? And the entire viewing audience is probably thinking the same thing to the writers of the show. Why are you having our superhero be dumb? Why? So then the King, well, I keep calling him the Kingpin, but he's hardly the Kingpin anymore. So then Wilson Fisk, he sees all this like negative energy that he's getting. Now that Vanessa is dead, the governor, who's only going to keep the Freeport Charter open because of Vanessa, now has no reason to leave it open anymore. So she's also telling Sheila that she should run for campaign. She should run for mayor because she's been a part of politics for a long time. Because they're having this sort of gala or something, whatever. I don't care. So the Kingpin is sitting in the administrative building, I guess it's City Hall. There's a riot outside. They're protesting the ABTF. They have all these Daredevil masks. White Tiger's niece is there for some reason. Karen's there in disguise wearing a wig so she can broadcast the video testimonies that she took from people that were abducted illegally by the ABTF. So they managed to broadcast it right on the building of City Hall. So the ABTF is deployed. There's this skirmish. There's a crisis. The ABTF is just going nuts, like shooting people. And I don't know if this was purposely supposed to be a distraction for Daredevil to sneak in, but Wilson Fisk goes downstairs in his basement, and then he somehow just knows that Daredevil is there. So then they start to fight. Okay, at first Kingpin is kind of wild, throwing these wild haymakers, and Daredevil's just like matrixing out of the way, like whoosh, whoosh. And the fight choreography is okay, but they keep cutting away from the fight to show what's going on outside. I'm like, just show the freaking fight. So Daredevil then tells the Kingpin, why don't you just leave New York? And then as a caveat for the Kingpin to leave, Daredevil says, I'll leave New York too. Do you know how stupid that is? Do you know how stupid that statement is? Daredevil leaving Hell's Kitchen, leaving New York. If Kingpin leaves, it's the equivalent of Batman telling the Joker, if you leave Gotham, I'll leave Gotham. Spider-Man telling Green Goblin, you leave New York, I'll leave New York. What about the rest of the Rogues Gallery, Daredevil? Disney, who wrote this? What about Bullseye? What about any of the other MCU street-level villains that are out there? What about the rest of the criminal organizations that are in New York City? Because guess what? If the Kingpin leaves, there's going to be even more chaos and more pandemonium. because he's the power that's holding everybody else together, holding them down, because he has that much gravitas as an organized crime figure. He's keeping everybody else suppressed. If he leaves, nature abhors a vacuum. Other rival organizations are going to be vying for his spot as the top man in organized crime. What dumb dialogue. Why would Daredevil say something that stupid? And I bet he meant it too, that if Kingpin left, he'd leave too. So Daredevil gets the best of Kingpin. He does this move where he has like the batons sort of like around the Kingpin's neck, kind of holding him in place. Then he gives him like a Seth Rollins knee to his face, like, BOW! And he basically defeats the Kingpin, and it made sense. So after that, outside in the melee, one of the AVTF guy or somebody else that's just riding knocks Karen's wig off. So now her blonde hair is visible for all to see. I'm like, Karen, if you don't tie that coat around your head and hide yourself instead of helping somebody that was knocked down. And lo and behold, maniac ex-cop ADTF officer Powell has a gun to her head and says, Karen freaking Page. And that's how the episode ends. I'm like, Karen, are you aware that you're wanted for aiding and abetting the felon? And remember, because of the Safer Streets Act, the ADTF can just shoot you without any kind of due process. They don't have to Mirandicize you. They're maniacs. And Wilson Fisk let them off the hook to have to abide by regular police regulations. So Karen was stupid. If she was really going to kill Bullseye, she wouldn't have hesitated. She should have just blown his brains out, even though I didn't want Bullseye to die, because Bullseye is the best character in the show. Bullseye is. Poindexter. So this was another bad episode. I'm like, okay, so Daredevil wins the fight with the Kingpin. What was the purpose of the fight? Just so they can have a little tete-a-tete at the end of near the end of the season? This isn't the penultimate episode. This is not the finale. So why would they just shoehorn in the fight right here? It didn't make any sense. I'm like, for him to soundly defeat the Kingpin, there should have been a plan in place to prosecute him or to have evidence to suggest that this man is corrupt and him be removed from office. Because that's how you hurt the Kingpin. That's how you hurt characters like Lex Luthor. That's how you hurt Norman Osborn. You strip them of their power, of their impunity. So I'm like, so again, was the riot just a distraction so that Daredevil could get down there and fight the Kingpin or confront the Kingpin? But after the fight, I'm like, what? What's happening now? And that's my question for the entire series. What is happening? What? So another bad episode. Is it horrible? No. Is it awful? No. But C- for Requiem. Jessica Jones couldn't even make this episode good. This show managed to make Jessica Jones worthless. And that's a crime. That's an absolute crime. So now her super strength, her endurance, her invulnerability, out the window because she had a kid named Danielle. Does that make sense to you? Because it don't make sense to me that our superpowered characters are nerfed. Dumb. Why am I supposed to come back and watch the show if Jessica Jones isn't going to be the same character she was in the Netflix series? Daredevil, not the same as he was in the Netflix series. Wilson Fisk, not the same as he was in the Netflix series. We're seeing all this FaceTime with Wilson Fisk. It's like, where's the mystique for the Kingpin now? Now that we know every waking thought he has during the day. I think I'm going to go with a white jacket instead of a black one. I don't want to see the Kingpin making everyday decisions like this. Boo, boo, boo. Daredevil Born Again Season 2. I am quickly getting off on this season. And not getting off in that way either. But I'm hopping off the bandwagon. Not that I was really on it, but if there's a Season 3, I will not be on board. I will have zero expectations for it. I'll probably only record reactions just for content. Yes, I'm going to be a social media, I won't use the word, just for content. Maybe you like the show. Let me know in the comment section. But again, this is the recap with No Cap, John Batt, Daredevil Season 2, Born Again. Let me make that distinction. This ain't Daredevil. It's Daredevil Born Again, the Disney version. Season 2, Episode 6, Requiem, and I give it a C-. C-. Lord help me. Get this show out of here. Peace.